So today we're playing Mono Green Food in Zendikar Rising Standard, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so this hand was keepable. It was okay. I would have liked something to go in the earlier curve, but it's okay. So let's see what our opponent does. We're just going to lead off here on a tap land, play the turn Timber Symbiosis. It's unlikely we're going to cast it as a 7-drop. So they're playing Gruul, which is usually a pretty good matchup for us, but let's see how this one goes. Here we're just going to play the Trail of Crumbs. Just going to try to curve out. Life gain from the food can be useful, and they're off to a pretty quick start with the 3/3 Bushfire Elemental. Let's see what the 30-drop is. Kazandu Mammoth. Okay, so here I was debating between how to use my mana, and I decided just to play the Thrashing Brontodon. They bolt themselves, but to good avail. Both their creatures get +2/+2, and we're not going to block here. We want to use the Thrashing Brontodon to kill this Embercleave. But unfortunately, we're down to 1. So here what we're going to do is we're going to blow up the Embercleave and play a 5/5. Hopefully they don't have anything else and we can start gaining life back by sacrificing food tokens next turn. But unfortunately, they're going to play a hasty 1/1 and we're not going to have enough blockers to do anything. On to the next one. So here we're going to bring in the Thrashing Brontodons to deal with the Embercleaves and the Great Hand, as well as the Scavenging Ooze to gain some life back. We're going to trim some of the grindier elements. We probably don't need them in this matchup because they're looking to kill us quickly. So let's see how our new opening hand is. It's looking pretty good. The Lovestruck Beast is a good blocker, and if we can get to 6 mana, the 2 Feasting Troll Kings are very good blockers. So we're just going to lead off here with the 1/1 human. The Thrashing Brontodon's a pretty good draw. Play the tap land and hit in for 1. They Bone Crush Giant, so we're not going to be attacking with the Lovestruck Beast, but we do draw a Gilda Goose, which will help us ramp into the Feasting Troll Kings. They play a 3/3, which can probably turn into a 5/5 next turn. But what we do is we draw a Witch's Oven, which is a good draw because that can fizzle any of the future stomps. So it's going to turn into a 5/5 and then potentially into a 7/7. They wilt away our Oven, which is good for them. So they've got a 7/7. We're just going to take it here. There's an argument for blocking, but I think the Thrashing Brontodon is probably better used to kill a Embercleave. Now we can play a Gilda Goose to make food and ramp us, but unfortunately it's just going to eat a stomp. So we attack, try and get in some damage, plus the 5/5's a good blocker. It's unlikely they have another Fable Passage, but let's see what they do have. Just a tap land, and they play a 4/3. Okay, so let's see what happens here. They're going to attack. We're going to block, just trying to get off the battlefield, trying to preserve our life total. And this way, hopefully if we draw land. Okay, so we can fizzle this adventure spell by sacrificing the food. And we do draw the land. We're going to get in. I don't think they're going to block here. 4/3 is too valuable. Now we have a 7/6 Trample Vigilance. They play the Chronomore, which steals our creature until the Saga leaves the battlefield. So now here's an interesting dilemma. When do we kill the Chronomore? Like how many chapters do we want to go off? pretty clearly we're going to play the Feasting Troll King, maybe? No, we're not. So we're going to let the Saga go off, and then before combat, what we're going to do is we're going to kill it so we have a blocker. Because if we let them go to combat, then what could possibly happen is they could flash in Embercleave, which we don't really want. Plus now we have a 7/6, which is usually pretty good at Magic. So no attacks from them, which is really good. They play another Crone War, so this means next turn what we're going to have to do is play a Feasting Troll King and see what we draw. Okay, so they're just going to crack their Fable Passage now, thin their deck a little bit. So they've got 2 4/3s and a 7/6. We draw a land. Would have been useful last turn, but it's okay. We have our own 7/6 now. And now what's interesting to see is how they attack. What's good about this board state is that the Crone Ward deals damage to tapped creatures, and the Feasting Troll Kings both have Vigilance, which means they won't tap, which means they won't deal damage to themselves. So they're going to attack with the Feasting Troll King, and I consider how to block, but I determined that by blocking the Feasting Troll King, I'll be able to get them both back next turn, and I'll be able to save myself a little bit of life. As opposed to blocking the Bonecrusher Giant, I would have taken 11. And if by blocking this guy, I only take 9. And I can get them both back next turn, which is the main draw. So, I'm still considering this block. So I take 9 down to 3. I draw a Great Henge. I punt here by playing the Feasting Troll King. What I could have done is reanimate the Feasting Troll King, play a Great Henge, and still have enough mana, because it's basically mana neutral. It costs 2 mana and adds 2 mana. It would have let me draw a couple cards and gave me some life, so that's a definite punt on my part, but it's okay. The Great Henge is a pretty good card, and missing out on a few life isn't going to impact too much here. So I play the Great Henge now, but unfortunately, like I said, we don't have any creatures to play, so that was a pretty bad punt on my part. I attack for 21 with Trample and Vigilance, which is pretty good. I could reanimate one of them, and my opponent decides, is questioning how to block, but they just opt to not kill any of my guys and just block the minimum. So, unfortunately for them, they go down to 1, and with 3 7/6s and the potential to gain 11 life, it's going to be pretty hard for them to come back from this position. They make a beast with Vivian Monster's Advocate, but I don't think they're going to be able to come back from this. And they explode. On to game 3. Okay, so let's see how our hand looks. So it's okay. I'd like another land, because our curve's a little bit high, but I think the Gilded Goose will probably help us get her, so I keep the hand. There's an argument for playing the tap land and Tangled Florahedron here, but I decide just to try to curve out by playing the Gilded Goose. Okay, the tap land on turn 2 is pretty good. Means they can't kill my goose, and I draw the Witch's Oven. So I'm deciding between playing the Florahedron as a land or playing it as a creature. I decide it's probably safe to play it as a land. Less likely that it's going to die. I'm going to be down a land. So, play the Witch's Oven, and now this will be able to fizzle any Bonecrusher Giant and Stomps. So they just play the Bonecrusher Giant as a 4/3, which isn't so bad. And now I play the 3/4 I want to keep the Wicker Wolf back, so next turn if I draw land, I can sacrifice the food and make it indestructible, which will be pretty good for me. But unfortunately here, I lose the 3/4 blocker, which would have been really good. And they get a 5/4, but they did take 2, so I'm not going to block. I really like my mana dorks. And now, looks like they think about killing. They do kill my mana dork, which is kind of unfortunate. And I don't draw the land. So this is getting kind of awkward. I really needed to keep that mana dork around or hit another land. And they play Garrick. So this guy can make 3/3s, or he can give +3/+3. He's going to go for the +3/+3, just try to get me dead. 7 damage is a lot. That's an argument for sacrificing a food here, but I try to keep it around. And I'm deciding between playing it as a creature to block, playing it as a land, but I've determined that playing it as a creature probably isn't going to win me the game. I'm really trying to play to win instead of playing to not lose. So, it goes as a land. Now if they don't have anything, next turn I'll be able to kill their Bone Crusher Giant and hopefully rebuild from there. I'm going to sacrifice food here. I just need to gain back some life. They opt to play it as a 4/3. They could have shocked me first, but they just play it as a 4/3. And I do draw a land, but at this point I'm thinking it's going to be too late. I can make my guy indestructible, but then I'll not have a blocker. And even if I did have a blocker, one of their guys would have trample. So, unfortunately, I explode. Thank you.